City.
The NFL season is officially underway. The action courtesy the Chiefs Radio Network in Thursday night's season-opening 27-20 win over the Ravens. The Chiefs starting their quest for a third consecutive Super Bowl title. Last night's game, a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 28 passing for 291 yards with a touchdown, 1 interception. Baltimore's Lamar Jackson, 26 of 41 passing, 273 yards and a TD. One game on the schedule tonight, the first ever NFL game in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Packers take on the Eagles.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Macy's Labor Day sale is going on now with limited time end of summer specials like great deals on back to school looks, and shop our lowest prices of the season on furniture, mattresses and more 15 to 65% off, or use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 20% off even more great deals. Star Rewards members can earn faster during Star Money bonus days at Macy's. Details at Macys.com/Star Money. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Everybody, great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API-SP test limits.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
It is a Football Friday, live right here on Football Full Circle for the first time in NFL season, week number 1. As we get things going here in 2024, the NFL season debut last night inside Arrowhead Stadium between the Chiefs and the Ravens. A full recap and our immediate reactions from the first game of 2024 in the National Football League, setting the stage for the rest of the weekend slate. A game in Brazil, the Sao Paulo opener between Philadelphia and Green Bay on this Friday night. 13 games for our first full Sunday of this 2024 NFL season. And of course, it is week number 2 of the college football campaign as well. You want a game to be handicapped? We got it for you here live on this Football Friday. He is the mastermind of the pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Lisi guy, how you feeling? You were working late night yesterday on NFL football in-game live. Game day for the NFL season opener between the Chiefs and the Ravens. How was last night? How are you feeling this morning? You ready to roll?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is it, right? I'm working on coffee and fumes, Ben. I went to bed at 3. Up at about 8 o'clock, so 5 hours of sleep. I was putting in bets at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, I'm locked and ready for tonight's action. What a game last night, and it was fantastic. 4 straight hours of coverage. We covered the delay straight through midnight, and it went right down to the last play of the game. If that's how the NFL season's going to start and potentially be for 2024, buckle up, baby, because we got a wild ride ahead of us.
A premiere we can only hope is indicative of what the entire season is going to be. Exciting and down to the final seconds of regulation. With 5 ticks remaining, Lamar Jackson calls for the snap, finds Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone. It seemed as though the Ravens, down by a touchdown, were about to equalize or maybe even go for 2 for the win as John Harbaugh came screaming onto the field. But hold up. Isaiah Likely's toe just a little bit too large on the back line and into the white, out of bounds. That was the call on the field. The touchdown overturned. Isaiah Likely and the Ravens come up so close. 27-20. The Chiefs start their second consecutive title defense. A perfect 1-0 in the win column. Covering, Joe, winning by 7 as a 3-point home favorite in KC.
And if you're Kansas City or a Kansas City fan or backer, that's exactly what you wanted to see last night. You wanted to see the best quarterback in the NFL, Pat Mahomes, start fast, those new weapons around him. And I'm talking about Xavier Worthy in terms of the receiving game. But you also saw it in regards to the reverses, right? His explosiveness out in the open field resembles, at least early on, of Tyreek Hill, right? They thought they had it with Kadarius Toney. He struggled with inconsistency. They have it now in Xavier Worthy. And I have to say, Rashee Rice looks like one of the better wide receivers now, elite wide receiver in year number 2. If he can continue that development, you don't need Travis Kelce or Isaiah Pacheco, right? You could save them for the postseason the way they did last year.
Both of those guys, Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, well under their established props in the low 60s for Pacheco, 15 carries for 45 yards, but did find pay dirt in the second half. Travis Kelce only targeted 4 times, 3 grabs for 34 yards. It was that wide receiver in year 2, Rashee Rice, 9 targets, 7 catches for 103 yards. And Xavier Worthy, the speedster out of Texas, who ran the fastest 40-yard dash in the history of the NFL Combine at 4.21 seconds, that somehow, some way fell into the lap of the Chiefs. For what reason the Buffalo Bills traded that 28th overall pick to their arch nemesis in the AFC, I will never understand. 3 touches in total last night, Lacey Guy. 2 touchdowns for Xavier Worthy, including on a 21-yard scamp around on a end around for him on his very first touch in the National Football League. 2 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Now we talk about our reactions to the game overall. If you are Baltimore, I think it's very natural, Joe, on this Friday morning, following the season debut, to say, hey, we went on the road with a patchwork offensive line that is starting and needs to gel together, and we nearly, literally by a toe in a game of inches, almost knocked off the Chiefs in their own home stadium on Super Bowl night. Sure, we did not win. Sure, we didn't even cover as a field goal underdog. Total of 46.5 does go over ever so slightly, by the way, but the flock should feel pretty good. Or, Lacey, are you concerned by what you saw out of Baltimore last night?
Yeah, I'm concerned. And again, this is not a knock on Lamar Jackson. We know about his versatility, his ability to take games over with his legs. We understand that. That has been the MO of Lamar Jackson. The problem has been, and even in that game last night, and more importantly, the AFC Championship game, when the chips are in the middle of the table, can Lamar Jackson engineer a comeback as it relates to the passing attack? Now, yes, He put his team in a position to win that game last night, but it was a one-man show with Isaiah Likely in terms of the second half and Zay Flowers. They need much more consistency in regards to the passing attack. In my opinion, big picture, if this team is going to be a contender and certainly challenge for a number 1 seed. They can't win with Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews running 5-yard outs and quick bubble screens throughout the regular season. They're going to get clipped by Joe Burrow and Cincinnati. They're going to get clipped by Kansas City and the better teams in the AFC. And even a team like Houston that could chuck it for over 300 yards per game because of the type of explosiveness they have. They cannot play that way each and every game, Ben.
And that's going to be the question for Baltimore, big picture, right? Their expectation is not, hey, let's contend for the division or maybe sneak into the playoffs. It is win an AFC championship with a 2-time MVP winner in Lamar Jackson. But I think overall, Joe, based on gameplay, outside of the stats, Lamar combining for nearly 400 yards of total offense, 273 yards through the air, and a touchdown, 122 on the ground, was not only Baltimore's leading rusher, but carried it the most for the flock, even more than Derrick Henry, who only had 13 rush attempts. Lamar himself, 16 carries. It's why was that the offensive game plan? We questioned Todd Monken in the AFC title game last year in the Charm City. Why did they not run it against a Kansas City defense that was very good, but its one weakness perhaps was defending the run? Then you bring in Derrick Henry, albeit at the age of 30, to take some of that share of the rushing workload off the shoulders of Lamar Jackson, who was running downfield last night, Joe, and exposing Kansas City, but also taking pop after pop, lowering his shoulder into contact. Fine in week number 1, probably not going to span the test of time. And I think one of the reasons Lamar was taking off for greener pastures and getting rid of the football so quickly that outside of the final few possessions was not really down the field often, is because the offensive line has a lot of issues to figure out. I think there are some things that could plague the flock moving forward.
I agree. And again, you're right. The offensive line broke down. But again, a lot of those weren't design runs, and there wasn't a lack of, a deep passing attack. Outside of Zay Flowers, maybe one or two passes late in the fourth quarter, there was no stretch in regards to challenging the defense over the top. And I said, if Baltimore ultimately wanted to run the football, right, with Derrick Henry or even design runs with Lamar Jackson, you need to run off that secondary linebacker and nickelbacks. They didn't do that. They did it early on in terms of Zay Flowers coming over the middle, but they didn't take a deep shot until about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter when they trailed by 10. That cannot be, Ben. So again, that is a cause of concern. I have faith in Lamar. I don't have faith in those weapons around him. And that's why, again, when we break down the division, I think it's Cincinnati's to win.
The King did score last night, Derrick Henry, on the opening offensive possession for Baltimore, but only 46 yards in total, just 3.5 yards per carry. Isaiah Likely, a bright spot, 12 targets, 9 grabs, 111 yards, and a touchdown, just ever so close with his big toe of having that second touchdown that could have potentially led to a tie or even a victory for Baltimore. More from Thursday night next.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Challenger report shows layoffs soared in August, hitting their highest total for the month in 15 years. Year-to-date hiring reached a historic low. Announced job cuts totaled 75,891 for the month, soaring 193% higher than July. Though the total was just 1% higher than the same month in 2023, it was the highest number for August going back to 2009, as the economy was still escaping the worst of the global financial crisis. The teen charged with opening fire at a Georgia high school denied making prior threats when police interviewed him last year as they looked into online posts threatening a school shooting. The 14-year-old suspect has been charged as an adult in the shooting Wednesday outside of Atlanta that killed 4 people and wounded 9. The same teenager was interviewed in May 2023 by a sheriff's investigator from nearby Jackson County who received a tip from the FBI that the boy, then 13, quote, had possibly threatened to shoot up a middle school tomorrow. Classes were canceled Thursday at Appalachia High School. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
If I was to describe this sandwich in one word, I would say magical. Hi, this is Jamor, and the little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich is that extra oomph. I go back and forth from the spicy filet to the original filet. I get into the sweetness of the honey, then you have the extra kick from the spicy filet. The combination alone takes it over the top. It's award-winning.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Football is a game of inches, and the toe last night, the difference for Baltimore. Just slightly over the end line. Isaiah Likely unable to get both feet down in bounds. Baltimore falls in Kansas City 27-20. The Chiefs cover as a 3-point favorite to kick off the 2024 NFL season. A total of 46 and a hook just barely trickles over. Again, Lisa Guy, when we look at the 2 MVP winners who have each won 2 MVP awards and are our 2 most recent MVP winners in the National Football League, both performed well last night. Lamar, nearly 395 yards of total offense, 273 through the air, 122 on the ground. Mahomes, over his passing yards prop, as you anticipated, Joe, closed in the low 270s. He finishes with 291 yards. Let's start with Kansas City, then we'll get to Baltimore. The Chiefs priced to win the AFC, shortening a little bit after the season opening win against Baltimore. Down to a 3-1 price. Super Bowl price does the same, down to 5-1. Both prices growing shorter by just a half buck. Kansas City is expected to be back into a Super Bowl to try to make history, which is something nobody has ever done in the National Football League. Win 3 consecutive Lombardi trophies. Based on what you saw last night, did your outlook for KC change at all?
No, best team in the NFL, and because they have number 15, that doesn't change, right? Doesn't matter if he's got pedestrian talent around him or elite talent now. What we saw last night, he's going to be there. Pat Mahomes elevates everybody around him and makes those players around him better, and he can create just like Lamar Jackson, only the difference is Pat Mahomes can create in the pocket and chuck it 50 yards on a rope to a in stride Rashee Rice. That is the difference, Ben, right? When we talk about both of these quarterbacks, he has these weapons now. If Rashee Rice develops to be one of the better wide receivers potentially in the AFC, now you're cooking. You have speedsters at every single level now to run off the defense, and that could open up the rushing attack in regards to a playoff run with Isaiah Pacheco. And oh, by the way, Travis Kelce still in the back pocket, where if you do have to dial him up as a security blanket, he is there. He wasn't the main target last night. I thought Baltimore, came into this game saying we can't allow Kelce to beat us because of last year. And he just went to every other option in regards to the offense. That's the difference this year compared to last. So yeah, on paper, on the field, they're the best.
And Hollywood Brown not even there yet for Kansas City. On the other side, we thought Mark Andrews was still the top target for Lamar Jackson. It's the other tight end, Isaiah Likely, entering year 3 out of Coastal Carolina. 9 grabs, 111 yards, and a touchdown. And, Joe, when you look at that final drive for the Flock, it started with under 2 minutes remaining on their own 13-yard line. Lamar Jackson drives them down the field. Many connections to Likely, and really the only deep pass of the night that wasn't just yards after catch to Rashad Bateman, 38 yards down the right sideline to set the Ravens up in the red zone. Isaiah Likely and his big toe, the story, but it almost distracts from 2 wide open misses for Lamar Jackson. Likely in the back corner of the end zone on first down, and I mean a wide open by himself, Zay Flowers. Lamar was under some pressure, but still a throw you must convert when your receiver is standing by himself in the back of the end zone. I do believe there are some concerning things for the Ravens moving forward. Still expect them to be a playoff team. Still expect them to be there at the end of the road. But a couple of issues, I think, for the Ravens to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we talk about, clock management. They get the football about $1:26. They're across their own 40. It took them 30 seconds to go about 15 yards. They're letting the play clock go down. They're wasting time. They get a first and goal, right? Or what was it? First and 10 inside the 15. Lamar's waiting 10, 15 seconds. That shows you they're not comfortable, Ben, playing from behind. They haven't done it. It's out of their comfort level. They love to dictate tempo, and play bully ball when they can run the football and work off of play action. But again, in this type of predicament where they're trailing, that is a main concern and why Lamar Jackson gets all the noise and all the criticism because, he can compile stats. But in that type of situation against Mahomes, you're going to take Pat Mahomes 99 times out of 100, hands down.
The Ravens saw some wild market movement early on this Friday morning after the season opening defeat. The market has settled a little bit, which I find correct. Baltimore, second best price still in the AFC, but now at plus 750, $2 tacked on to that number. The Bengals become the favorites in the AFC North. Not a divisional game last night for the Flock, but still impactful to the overall win-loss record. Lisi, I think it's fair to say we both have concerns over the Ravens. You expressed some concerns ultimately for Baltimore's big picture of AFC championship or bust. this year for the Ravens. Do you think the Ravens at all are in danger of missing the postseason?
I don't think so. I mean, again, it all depends on that defense. Right now, the defense, you can't expect it to be at the same level with a veteran play caller like McDonald. Hopefully now their new DC can, get acclimated and they can progress. As long as they don't fall off a cliff, Ben, they need that defense to keep them in games, right? Because the way they play offense, they don't score in 30 seconds or less like Pat Mahomes, right? They have to work down the field. So that aside, as long as the defense is still a top 15, top 10 type of unit, they're going to be there for potentially 10 or 11 wins. But I don't think they're a number one contender. I would take Kansas City. I would take Cincinnati over them right now.
The Ravens had the best scoring defense in the NFL last year, limiting opponents to only 16.5 points per game. But after 2 years under Mike Macdonald, it is now Alex Orr, the 31-year-old play caller under John Harbaugh, is the second youngest coordinator in the National Football League. Defense wasn't bad last night, but a couple of lapses in coverage, especially what was that game-winning touchdown in essence to Xavier Worthy, that comes to mind. All right, from the Thursday night opener to start the 2024 NFL season to this Friday night in Sao Paulo, and then to the full Sunday slate. We'll give you thoughts on all 13 games that we have on Sunday in the National Football League on the other side of the break here on the first full football Friday of the 2024 NFL season. Joe Lisi, Ben Stevens, we rock and roll on the other side.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Oh my goodness! He's done it again!
1995, Cal Ripken Jr. breaks the Iron Horse Lou Gehrig's record, playing in 2,131 straight games.
When the game numbers on the warehouse changed, the fans in this ballpark responded incredibly.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New research reveals you can learn overnight by smelling strong odors combined with spoken instructions while you're asleep.
E=MC².
Neurons associated with smell are hardwired to the brain centers of learning, memory, and emotion. While you're asleep, sniffing cigarette odor mixed with the smell of decomposing fish and rotten eggs makes you want to quit smoking. Stimulating the olfactory system, your sensory environment, smelling while sleeping may supercharge learning anything. Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
All right, from Thursday night in the season debut in Kansas City down to South America, Sao Paulo on a Friday in the Brazilian opener between the Eagles and the Packers. A marquee matchup on this first Friday of the 2024 NFL season. Two teams, Joe, that I think we're both optimistic about in the NFC of being a conference contender entering 2024. Line opened at only 1.5 in favor of the Eagles. It got up to 3 earlier this week. On this game day Friday in Sao Paulo, Paulo trickling under a field goal, but still 2.5 points in favor of Philadelphia against Green Bay. Tied for the second highest total of the entirety of the Week 1 slate, 49 and a hook is the number. What are your initial thoughts for tonight's matchup between the Birds and the Pack?
I still lean to Green Bay in this matchup, and I understand that, from a commuting perspective, they're, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the field, and that's why we're seeing potentially some line movement, 1.5 in the offseason to now 2.5. But I'm still going to go with the young gun, Jordan Love, and the Green Bay Packers. They have Josh Jacobs. They have a multitude of weapons, including Jaden Reed, and I still think that they could go toe-to-toe with Jalen Hurts. I think this potential, in terms of the game flow, could go just like last night. High scoring now. I originally thought low scoring, but again, I just think we're going to be due to fireworks. Give me the over, but I really like Green Bay to win this ball game outright, Ben.
So what Joe is referring to, traffic in Sao Paulo, always bad. It's a holiday weekend down in Brazil. The Packers, because they are technically the away designated team tonight in Sao Paulo, are staying at a farther hotel that reports from Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports says could take the Pack about an hour and a half to upwards of 2 hours to get to the stadium. Is that an advantage for the Eagles? We shall see. Joe, Philadelphia last year dropped 5 of its final 6 games in the regular season to fall out of the divisional race in the NFC East. They have to go on the road Super Wild Card weekend to Tampa. They were still booked as a road favorite against the Buccaneers and lost that football game. A defense that deteriorated. Philly had the second worst passing defense in the NFL a season ago. Opposite end of the equation for Jordan Love and Green Bay. They won 6 of their final 8 regular season games to earn that playoff berth in the first year after Aaron Rodgers, to go on the road to the Star in Dallas and upset the Cowboys as a touchdown dog to start off the postseason. When you look at Green Bay as an underdog, 8-4 against the spread last year, 6 of those 8 covers in outright victory. Philadelphia as an underdog under Nick Sirianni, who became the head coach in 2021, 20-18-3 against the spread, but we're under a field goal tonight. Overall, Lisi Guy, which players are you keeping an eye on that could impact the outcome in Brazil?
Well, I'm looking at, for the Green Bay side, I'm looking at Josh Jacobs in regards to not just rushing, but obviously receiving. We talk about the screen game being effective. Josh Jacobs in regards to, breaking, contain, and neutralizing the front seven is an option. But I looked at Jaden Reed, and I also looked at Jordan Love in the rushing attack, believe it or not. We talked about the rushing quarterbacks last night. We know how Jordan Love stays in the pocket. In terms of this matchup, Ben, a different stadium overseas in terms of this matchup, I like Jordan Love's rushing attack total tonight. So keep an eye out for that. I think that there's potential to hit pay dirt with that pick.
8.5 for Jordan Love. 40 in a hook is the number for Jalen Hurts. Jordan Love has the higher passing yards prop as we compare the quarterbacks. 252 in a hook, 240.5 for Hurts. We'll start with Jordan Love, Joe. Down that home stretch, the final 8 games, Love threw for 250 plus in 6 of the 8, 18 touchdowns to only a single INT in that span. After being paid, now is the highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL alongside Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Do the optimism and the good times continue to roll to start off 2024 for Jordan Love?
I think so. And we talk about his progression, right? From November through the end of the regular season into the playoffs, he averaged 270 per game through the air, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And look at the body of work. He stood in the pocket, which showed me that he was very confident in Matt LaFleur's scheme. You have a bunch of young talent around him, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Josh Jacobs now. I mean, the list goes on, Christian Watson, and he has developed with these wide receivers. So not just this year, Ben, but he has the potential, should they get to the playoffs, this could be a dynasty in the making because of the talent.
Oh! More than 30 years of consistent and successful quarterback play in Green Bay. It started with Favre, then to Rodgers, now Love. Question mark. Elsewhere around the Sunday slate, all 13 games come your way up next.
The the winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Top 25 football tomorrow. Big matchup is number 3 Texas battles number 10 Michigan. The number 14 Tennessee Volunteers take on the number 24 NC State Wolfpack. Light day around baseball Thursday. The Twins beat the Rays 4-3. The Mariners over Oakland 6-4. The Pirates beat the Nationals 9-4. The Rockies with a 3-1 win in Atlanta. The Tigers beat the Padres 4-3. The Rangers over the Angels 3-1. The Phillies beat the Marlins 5-2. The Giants with a 3-2 win over the Diamondbacks. The Reds shut out the Astros 1-0. The AL East race remains a hot one. Baltimore just a half game behind the Yankees for first place. The wild card race in the National League coming down to the wire. The Braves and Mets are now tied for the last wild card. New York's won 7 straight. The Cubs are just 4 games back.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Get big deals for days at Target's long weekend sale. Let's go. Like 20% off denim, tees, dresses, and shoes for the family. Then round out your barbecue with Doritos and Ruffles party-sized chips. They're on sale 2 for $7. Or get 30% off 12 packs of and save even more. Find new lower prices on many grocery and household items you love today and every day. Target's long weekend sale ends Monday. Restrictions apply.
I love it.
Doors take us to summers away or winter adventures and afternoon getaways. Your dedicated Fidelity advisor can help you open those doors by working with you on a comprehensive plan to help you reach your wealth's full potential. Because doors were meant to be opened. Visit fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimum supply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer. You know what that means.
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live on Football Full Circle, it is time to now set the stage for the first full Sunday of this 2024 National Football League campaign. 13 games on Sunday, Lisi Guy. 8 in the early window, 4 in the afternoon slate starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and Sunday night in the Motor City between the Lions and the Rams. Let's fly through the Sunday slate before we get to college football in our next segment. Caleb Williams makes his debut in Chicago for the Bears against the Titans on Sunday. 3.5-point spread, 44.5 is the total. A lot of expectation in the Windy City. How does it look game number 1 in Caleb's career?
Well, again, I think they might struggle. Again, I'm not sold on Chicago big picture. I think they're under the 8.5. It's not a knock. Will he be the quarterback of the future? He may be, but it's Matt Eberflus, and it's everything that epitomizes and encompasses the Chicago Bears. I'm not a buyer of them. And Will Levis in year number 2 has the potential right now with a new head coach to maybe hit the ground running. Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, a very lethal, dynamic duo in regards to their explosive, their quick scat backs. They're not certainly Derrick Henry that are going to go up the middle for 3 yards in a cloud of dust the way Mike Vrabel wanted. So this is the opportunity to get through this total. I lean to Tennessee, Ben, with the points, 4.5, because I think there's going to be growing pains for Caleb. But I like the over. What is it up? It opened at 42.5. It got, I think we're 43.5, 44s now. Give me total. Give me up, and away.
Yeah, 44.5 is now that number between the Titans and the Bears. If you want to have optimism offensively for Chicago, that's where it begins. And it starts at the quarterback position. The passing yards prop for Caleb Williams in his first outing, 237 and a hook. Only 3 times did a Bears quarterback, and all 3 were Justin Fields, go over that number in 17 regular season games last year, Lisi. Will Levis on the other side, 238.5 for the Titans.
Yeah, again, I lean in terms of the quarterback breakdown. Give me Levis. I mean, he's experienced. He got 5-6 games under his belt. He had high highs, some low lows. On the road, he played okay. Led the double-digit win as an underdog. Would they catch 13.5, 14 against Miami? And he led that fourth quarter comeback. So, going up against a rookie quarterback, I give the edge to Levis. I think he could maybe get up to 240, 250, especially with Hopkins in that wide receiver court.
Had 238 in his debut against the Falcons and 4 touchdowns. Went over it the next week against Pittsburgh for 262, but then only over 225 one other time, 327 in that comeback against the Dolphins. I would actually lean under 238.5 for Will Levis. I'm sure you're happy to hear that. Next game up, Russell Wilson, limited participant at practice for the Steelers on Thursday. Calf injury that plagued him at certain times throughout training camp. Line has worked against the Steelers. It's 3.5 now in favor of the Falcons. Pittsburgh on the road in the ATL. A bunch of debuts. Kirk Cousins makes his first start for Atlanta. We anticipate Russ to still get the start for the Steelers. Arthur Smith, now the new OC for Pittsburgh, back in Atlanta, where the new head coach is Raheem Morris. Total of 42.5. What do you like?
Well, again, that calf is getting tighter by the day, my friend. And I tell you what, that plus 350 and 475 ain't looking bad now with the hometown kid, Justin Fields, coming back to Atlanta. What a storybook that would be, right? Starting his college career at Georgia, that would be pretty good. I'll say this, I can't buy into Atlanta. I just can't. I'm not a buyer of Kirk Cousins coming off the injury. I'm not a buyer of Raheem Morris and how they've sort of engineered this team. Even if Russell Wilson is under center, I lean to Pittsburgh. Getting the points statistically and against the number, they have dominated Atlanta over the years, but I just think they're more blue collar. Again, year one in terms of Raheem Morris back as a coach. And again, low total. But both teams need to establish the passing attack. But you know what? 42.5 is too low. Give me Pittsburgh outright and the over. Yeah,
I like the over as well. Go over 42.5. I'm not going to call it a...
Can I reassess?
Make that...
Hang on, I might need a TO, baby. I might need a TO.
Unfortunate. We can't even talk football. We can't even talk game breakdowns, whether in college or the NFL, because if I say I like something and you happen to agree... I can't even give my honest opinion. I'm too worried about what your reaction is going to be.
That's what makes the show great.
But then you question my integrity and my authority. You question my analysis.
Absolutely not. I think it's great. Spot on. Not only that, who's hot as a pistol? You, not me. I came out of the gates cold. I mean, come on now.
Well, in the NFL, I did as well. I don't think it's quite a referendum, but I expect the Falcons to be one of the highest scoring outputs in the NFL this year, and Pittsburgh has to be better offensively if there is going to be hope to keep the long streak of 17 straight years without a losing record under Mike Tomlin afloat. I like 42.5 to the over. Add it to what?
Could be a family play. Let's play it together. I'll play it. If we lose, then we reassess who the mush is. Then we'll do that.
Right. Sunshine State showdown in Miami between the Dolphins and the Jags. 3.5-point spread in favor of Miami. Also tied for the second highest total of the weekend at 49.5. Jags, Dolphins, Lacey guy, what do you like?
It's scary because, again, I'm a Dolphin fan, but I look at it objectively. That line does scare me, the 3.5. It's like they're begging you to take the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I'll take it. Again, I just think Peterson is a better coach than Mike McDaniel. I understand it's early on, Miami playing at home. But again, I still think Jacksonville, they overachieved early and then fell off a cliff in the last 6 games of the regular season. I think they get back to baseline. They run the football with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. And I'll say this, I'm still not sold on the front 7 of Miami. Patchwork. A lot of free agents there. They look good on paper, but I still like the offensive line of Jacksonville on the road. I will say this, though, Ben. Give me Jacksonville, but I like the under here. I think both teams established a run.
Jacksonville, before they went on that tailspin, dropping 5 of their final 6 starting in December and beyond, actually the 12th best scoring defense in the NFL. The Jags 2 years ago, when they came out of nowhere to win the AFC South in the first year with Doug Peterson as the head coach, 9-5 against the spread as a dog. Not booked nearly as often as an underdog last year, just 2-4 against the number. Miami, when booked as a favorite, is really good. 9-2 against the spread, covering by an average margin of double digits. It's when Miami is not expected to win a game. There are some issues. I also lean Jacksonville plus the points. Largest spread of the weekend in Cincinnati, 8.5 in favor of the Bengals. 40.5 is the total as Cincy gets ready to host the Patriots. Jamar Chase, limited participant, past 2 days for the Bengals at practice. I think the thought is he plays on Sunday. Not even really sure it matters, Lisi. Would you lay the heftiest number of week 1 with Cincy?
I would. Again, I'm not a buyer of New England big picture, whether Jamar Chase plays or not. I got Joey Silk on the other side. They're going to throw it and stretch it. And they're a pedestrian offense, New England. I think they're up against it. They're going to be in long third downs all week and all game long. I think it's blowout city. I don't know if we get to the total because what is New England going to ultimately get you? I'd be shocked if they get 13 or more. So give me Cincinnati, but I like the under in that matchup as well.
Yeah, that number at 40.5, I think Cincinnati might flirt with it. I'm not sure what we're going to get out of New England. I think the Patriots are going to have the worst record in the National Football League. They have the lowest win total entering this year, 4.5. One more game before we hit the break, Lisi guy. Texans and Colts, an AFC South divisional duel to start. Indy, a 2.5-point home underdog.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the wood. It's a rematch of last year. This was the game that knocked out the Colts from the playoffs with Minshew. Give me Stroud on the road.
Listen, Houston really good as an underdog because not a lot of people had expectations for them a season ago, but when booked as a favorite, just 3-5 against the number. The Colts better as a favorite, 5-1 ATS, best cover percentage in the NFL, only 4-7 as a dog. Really Anthony Richardson's true rookie season. More on FFC next.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Challenger report shows layoffs soared in August, hitting their highest total for the month in 15 years. Year-to-date hiring reached a historic low. Announced job cuts totaled 75,891 for the month, soaring 193% higher than July. Though the total was just 1% higher than the same month in 2023, it was the highest number for August going back to 2009, as the economy was still escaping the worst of the global financial crisis. The teen charged with opening fire at a Georgia high school denied making prior threats when police interviewed him last year as they looked into online posts threatening a school shooting. The 14-year-old suspect has been charged as an adult in the shooting Wednesday outside of Atlanta that killed 4 people and wounded 9. The same teenager was interviewed in May 2023 by a sheriff's investigator from nearby Jackson County who received a tip from the FBI that the boy, then 13, quote, had possibly threatened to shoot up a middle school tomorrow. Classes were canceled Thursday at Appalachia High School. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com. Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
We continue to run through the Sunday slate around the National Football League. It is week number 1. and then we'll look at the marquee matchups and fire through in college football week 2. Just a 1.5 point spread in favor of the Vikes on the road in MetLife against the New York Giants. 41.5 is that total. Joe, could it get worse for the Giants this year after a 6-11 record a season ago? And what is your thought on Minnesota with the injuries to guys like J.J. McCarthy? The rookie was maybe going to start this season opener. T.J. Hawkinson remains on the PUP list.
Yeah, again, for New York, I think, what could happen? Brian Dable is no longer the head coach in New York if they limp to a 6-11 or under 500 type of record just because of how he overexceeded expectations in year one. But, the more we break this down, Ben, there are weapons there for Daniel Jones. It all hinges the success. How healthy is Daniel Jones, and what does he give you? When you look at the numbers in regards to season totals, dead last in touchdowns out of all 32 starting quarterbacks, dead last in yards. I mean, he's getting like 30-1 to throw for 3,500 yards this year? What does that say about your offense? But terrible. Saquon Barkley playing for the Eagles. Here's the deal. This is a game they have to win. They're catching 1.5. They're basically even money on the money line. But they're going up against a quarterback in Sam Darnold that's played in the building before and has the best player on the field in terms of Justin Jefferson. I've gone back and forth. I'm going to lay it. I really like Minnesota the more and more I think about it. I don't know if we get through the total, but give me the Vikings on the road.
Yeah, I think the Vikings on the road is the way to look. I think you look at Justin Jefferson. I think you look at Jordan Addison. He is out there at 45.5. His receiving yards prop for J-Jet. It's 83 and a hook. On the early line earlier today, I alt-lined as a part of the pick six, Minnesota minus 6.5 at plus 200. What does 2024 have in store for the Panthers after being the worst team in the NFL a year ago? Just 2 wins, a 2-15 record, 3.5 point dog in a divisional showdown in the Big Easy on Sunday against the Saints. What gives?
I like Bryce Young in year 2. I like them plus 4.5. I booked it in the offseason. I think they come to play. I think Dave Canales is the difference. The way he mentored Baker Mayfield, I think certainly you're going to get a better year out of Bryce Young. And here's the thing, human anchor, 2 human anchors for head coaches. Matt Eberflus for Chicago, Dennis Allen for New Orleans. They're going nowhere. They're stuck in quicksand. So give me Carolina. But I'll say this, Ben. I'll say this. Can you say it with me? Party over, baby. Party over. Best bet of the weekend. Over. 40.5, 41.5, 42. Heck, we'll alter it into the 50.
41.5 is that number. The Saints under in 11 of 17. The Panthers tied for the highest under percentage in the National Football League last year alongside L.A., that being the Chargers, 12 of 17 games under. The Panthers last year booked as a dog in all 17 games. Just 2 wins, 4-11-2 against the spread, but I still think Carolina has an optimistic season. Buffalo, 6.5 point favorite at home against the Arizona Cardinals, 47.5. Carolina an underdog all 17 tries last year. Same for Arizona, but the Cardinals much better covering numbers. 9-8 against the spread, getting nearly a touchdown in Western New York. What do you like, Lisa Guy?
Smash special. The more I see the hype videos for Kyler in Arizona and how good they were a covering machine in September last year, they get absolutely sledgehammer Buffalo by double digits. I think you're going to see Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid. They're going to run it, throw it. And that defense, I think, will make some better plays than people think this year. Plus 750 to potentially, win the AFC, or 950. I think they have very good odds this year. Nobody's looking at them, but I love them in terms of this game. 2 best bets, Buffalo and the over in Carolina.
47.5 the over in Western New York. Again, the Bills, a 6.5 point favorite. Struggled last year, Joe, but the odds makers always expect Buffalo to be good. 16 times booked as a favorite, just 7-9 ATS. The debut of the Jim Harbaugh era in Southern California. The Chargers, a 3-point home favorite against the Raiders in the first official game for Antonio Pierce as the permanent head coach of Las Vegas. 40.5 is the number. How does Harbaugh's tenure in LA get started?
I think it starts with a loss. I know he's 4-0. He's undefeated in regards to that. But I think Las Vegas is more blue-collar than the Chargers right now. They're trying to be blue-collar with Jim Harbaugh, right? He's got to weed out that talent. In game one, I think it's a big game for Zamir White. I think he gets over the 51.5. One of my better plays. I think they win it outright.
I'm going under 40.5. I think Jim Harbaugh has established that the run is going to be the precedent for this LA team. The Raiders under an 11 of 17 games last year, but Antonio Pierce, great covering spreads in his 9 games as the interim head coach, 7-1-1 ATS, an underdog in 7 of those 9 games. Another AFC West team begins a new era. That is the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix as the starter up in the Northwest against the Seahawks. Seattle a 5.5-point favorite, 41.5 is the total. New time in Seattle as well after 14 years led by Pete Carroll. Mike McDonald, the new head coach of the Hawks.
Yeah, I don't like this game, but I guess I would go with defense and McDonald. I don't like Geno Smith big picture. I think they're going to be bottom feeders in regards to the NFC West. But again, I think they win this matchup. Rookie quarterback going on the road in terms of that environment, even though he's played there. People forget he played at Oregon. He's played in Washington before. So different crowd, obviously, but still.
Different, yeah. But at least the guy wasn't very good when Bo Nix was playing in Washington. His Ducks 0-3 against the Huskies in all 3 matchups.
He played well in those games, though. He did. Bo Nix actually played well. I mean, it's not like they got blown out.
Right, great game in October last year, of course, at Husky Stadium. Really good one afternoon window. Tom Brady's debut in the booth. The Browns a 2.5-point favorite against the Cowboys.
I got to lay it with the Browns. Again, Dak on the road with the dog pound. Again, finesse versus blue collar. I think Myles Garrett and the defense is the difference.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Joe. Cleveland had a good defense last year, started to give up some more points as the year went on, but they actually had the highest over percentage in the NFL. 12 of 18 games hit the over for the Browns last year. 2 more games for Sunday to wrap up. Some quick college football best bets on the other side for the marquee matchups in Week 2 up next on FFC.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Okay, very fast. Final two games from the Sunday slate. The Buccaneers winning 3 consecutive NFC South championships. Host Jaden Daniels in his debut on Sunday in Tampa. Baker and his Bucks, 3.5-point favorite, 42.5 the total. Lisi guy, what's the play?
Yeah, I think I might take a shot with Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels in game number 1. But don't you think this total's light? I think this total should have been in the high 40s. It's low to me. So give me Jaden Daniels and give me the over.
Washington, bad secondary last year, worst passing defense in the NFL. I think it will improve under Dan Quinn in time. Mike Evans over 67.5 receiving yards. Sunday night in the Motor City, the Lions and the Rams, a playoff rematch from Super Wildcard Weekend last year. It was Detroit's first win in the postseason in 32 seasons. Highest total of the entire Week 1 slate, 52.5. The Lions, a 4.5-point favorite against the Rams. What's Lisi liking?
Outright, give me the Rams. I think they're the more complete team this year. It's one of my better bets. Matt Stafford, as long as he's healthy, I have him 14-1 to win the NFC Championship. I really like the defense as well. And keep an eye out for Michigan rookie Blake Corum this year.
If I am not mistaken, it was Joe Lisi that correctly predicted the Rams would win outright Week number 1 last year in Seattle as a 5.5-point dog. They won that game by 17 points. All right, let's talk some college football now as we transition. 2 ranked versus ranked games, a top 10 tilt to start in the noon Eastern time hour. It's Michigan, 10th in the country, inside the Big House, hosting Texas, ranked number 3. Lisi guy, this line opened at 3.5. in the summer months. After week number 1, Texas blows and shuts out Colorado State 52-zip. Michigan kind of struggles against Fresno State, not covering as a 3-touchdown favorite, only winning by 20, 30-10. This line has gone from 3.5 to 7.5 in favor of Texas. Is it an overreaction or is it correct?
Well, I think it's an overreaction based off of last week, right? And that's the thing. Michigan's riding a 23 home game winning streak. We know they could still run the football with Donovan Edwards, more importantly, Mullings that had 92 yards. And that defense with an NFL DC, Wink Martindale, could be the difference. Again, am I hoping they pull off the upset? I am, but I'm taking the 7.5 points. And I'll say this, Ben, I'm already locked and loaded. I altered Donovan Edwards from 70 rushing yards all the way up to $110 at 4-1. Big game Donovan needs to step up, and that's the difference in terms of this ball game.
And you're telling me you don't want to watch that game together in the conference room of our Sports Grid studios tomorrow? You're an absolute nut. We're watching that together. I got to hear you yell Roman Hemby when Donovan Edwards scampers down the sideline. We're watching that together. I won't hear it another way. Now a 9.5-point spread, Lisi guy, in favor of Tennessee, ranked 14th in the country in Charlotte against number 24 NC State. Line was 7.5 earlier this week, now close to double digits. It's our second ranked matchup of the day. What do you like?
You know, I'm going to stick to it. It's NC State to keep it close. I think ultimately Tennessee wins, but I do feel they'll cover this 9.5, 10. Again, you got a lackluster effort against Western Carolina. Nico and the tempo of Tennessee's offense, I think, will push it and force Grayson McCall to play from behind. But Dave Doran is 14 basically in 5 over the past 4 seasons at home. Even though the game's neutral, it's basically a home crowd for Charlotte and NC State. Give me NC State to cover. I don't love it.
Nico Iamaleava, I get it. Nico Iamaleava, 255.5 his passing yards. Prompt Grayson McCall, 240 and a hook. NC State in the last 3 years under Dave Doran, they've won at least 8 games in all 3 seasons, 8-7 against the spread. In that same span, Josh Heupel has been in Knoxville. Tennessee, 20-9 ATS as a favorite. 6th best cover percentage in the nation in the last 3 years of college football. Colorado and Nebraska, a couple of rivalry games in Lincoln under the lights. The Huskers, a 7.5-point favorite against the Buffs. 56.5 is the total. What do you like?
I'm going to lay it, but I'm starting to get nervous with this game. Too many people think it's going to be blowout city. I lean to Nebraska. I'm not playing this game. I'm playing not playing a pre-kick. I like Nebraska, but I'm going to play it from an in-game perspective because this is the biggest game Raiola stepped in.
Biggest game for Dylan Raiola by far. Emmett Johnson over 38.5 rushing yards, the back for the Huskers. Cyhawk 35.5. Iowa State. Under. Lacey loves history. He's going under on a Saturday. We'll see you on College Football Today. Football Full Circle returns on Monday, noon Eastern time here on Sports Grid Radio. Have a great weekend.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.